Welcome to the Northeast Kingdom Voice. I'm your host, Scott Wheeler. Today's guest is one of the early pioneers in the internet world, Bill Alexander. Hey, Bill, is that an understatement, overstatement, that you were one of the early pioneers in this area in the internet?
Yeah, way back to the 1860s, I believe.
Yeah, 1860s. Well,
I kind of feel like I'm on the Newhart show here, and I'm looking for Larry, Daryl, and Daryl.
Well, no.
Wrong show?
No,
Oh,
actually,
sorry.
I'm Larry, and Daryl is the producer.
Ah, okay,
And
that's-
I don't know
that-
where his brother Daryl is.
No, that would explain it.
So,
Okay.
but I think you were one of the first people that I knew of who were utilizing the internet. You know, you and Al Gore, because Al Gore said he invented the internet.
Oh, we all take that as the gospel truth.
Right. So,
Yeah.
but you were one of the early people in working with the internet.
I would say so, yes, in the Newport area for sure. Actually, Serge Vachon was the person that taught me about personal computers back in the late 80s, so I owe him a lot of credit. And from there, I kind of followed it up and started back with bulletin boards when they were first available, the old squawky modems. And yeah, I was probably actually one of the first people to actually develop websites and web pages.
So, how much did you buy your first computer for?
$2,916, and I purchased it at Sears down in West Lebanon because I wanted to save on sales tax.
And I bought my first one. It was a lightning fast Pentium. I had one of the first Pentiums. $2,600 Gateway. What can you buy now for $2,000 for a computer? You could buy.
You could probably buy 2 computers and an iPad
Right.
for around that price.
And for the same memory that you had back then, you probably have those little discs now. Those thumb drives could probably hold just as much as those computers did.
Oh, absolutely.
So, but you're also the owner of Alpine Web Media, but then you're also, I think I got to know you, even though I've known you, but I really got to know your work through Vermonter.com because we have the same quirky look at this area. It isn't what you might see in, say, Vermont Life or something. You kind of look at you've looked at this area and some of the characters that typically don't make, whether it's, Bigfoot. I know he's one of your good friends, Mark Shaw.
Right.
You follow his work on Howard Stern's show, but then we've had you've mentioned other characters like, Nelson Powers and people like that, then of course we all knew Wayne Schaeff and,
Yeah.
but you kind of look at the area differently.
Yeah, I mean, I see everyday people. I see the Shumlins of the world and the politicians and all these other ones that basically are run-of-the-mill everyday people. And then I see the more unique people that, yeah, to be honest, some people might look down on them. Maybe they'll make fun of them a little bit or whatever. But, they all have their special qualities, and that's what makes them unique. And I know a lot of people can't stand Howard Stern, but the one thing I like about it is he takes people that otherwise everybody just doesn't care about them. They put them down and everything, but he'll find some little thing that makes them special. And a lot of people in this area were like that. And I remember years ago when I was a kid, when Wayne Schaeff would go around on Veterans Day and all these holidays, and they would have these things where you could sell these little red poppies.
Yeah.
And he would go out and he would sell the most of those. He would beat all the kids, and he was an older guy. But just the way he did it, his personality and everything, it's just, those to me are the really unique things that kind of you build memories on, as opposed to, just the average Joe you see every day.
Well, but that's kind of like stores too. Everybody people seem to want these cookie cutter stores where all the stores are the same, and all the workers are expected to act the same. But on the other hand, how many stores have a Louisa Essoff in them? And you must have known Louisa.
Oh yeah.
And Louisa Essoff owned a store on East Main Street for decades, and she was an amazing woman who came here from Lebanon, but you didn't go in that store and try to pull anything over on her because she'd chase you out with a broom.
Right. I think I once described Louisa Essoff as being the Clint Eastwood of
Yeah.
Newport, Vermont.
Right.
Because you didn't mess with her.
Right.
You,
But
you
she
knew
made,
better.
she made national news when somebody
sure did.
when somebody tried to rob her and took out a gun and they told they give me your money. And she basically said, I'm not giving you your money, and then kind of just shooed the person out the door. And I don't think when those of us when we were growing up, I don't think we appreciated what I think a truly great woman she was, and because she served our community. But I think people looked at, I think especially us young people, I don't think we really appreciated her.
Right. Yeah. And she's definitely one that stands out in a lot of people's memories because of that. I mean, she just was a very unique individual person that just really had some qualities that really stood out. Another one I'd like to bring up is Michael Dunn, one of the most fantastic people that I ever met in my life. Very inspirational. You would not know from looking at Michael that he was probably one of the more affluent people in the area. I can remember driving out by his place out on Eagle Point, and he'd be out on an old tractor just mowing out in the field. And I'd say, Mike, well, why are you doing that? Why don't you just hire somebody? Just because I like to. It's fun.
Yeah, I think when he passed away with millions, and then they found like a virtual museum of fine art in his house. Because I think the one thing here, when people move to this area, you're going to be careful about who you judge, because that person you're treating like a poor smuck might be able to buy everything
Exactly.
you own.
Exactly.
So let's go back to the web here. So you've kind of built yourself a bit of an empire out there. You're a web designer. You said you were one of the first web designers.
I believe so. Back in the day when I used to, when Yahoo was the big search engine back then, not Google. Google hadn't come along.
Right.
I used to be able to get people up within a day or two on the first page of Yahoo. And I have an interesting story about somebody in this area that I got him up on the front page of Yahoo, and he was so scared by that that he had me shut off his website.
Has it changed a lot
Oh, yes. Yeah.
for the better or for the bad?
It's taking the same trends as business in the United States, basically where it all comes down to money. Whoever has the most money will come out on top. And for everybody else, you've got to work a lot harder than you used to. When the internet first became available and websites were first coming out, did you know that we were not allowed to sell anything on the internet? It was a big taboo because most people that were building web pages back then were technical people. And it was considered a very big taboo to sell any kind of e-commerce or anything on the web. Soon after that, it kind of crept its way in. And the good thing was, back in those days, you could have a small business and you could start selling on the web, and you would be right up on the front page of Yahoo Shopping. And as an example, I built Maple Grove Farms' very first website. We started off selling maybe 7 or 8 items. That did pretty well. We decided to open a Yahoo store and put their entire inventory on. They grossed, I think it was $750,000 in sales the first year because we dominated Yahoo and Yahoo Shopping. These days, if you try to sell maple syrup or maple products on the web, there's such an incredible amount of competition that it will cost you a lot of time and money to get those kind of search results. And back then we got them for free.
Right. Did you ever envision, like, because you were like a pioneer, at least in this area, but did you ever envision that the world would be going so web crazy as today, as in businesses particularly?
Probably not to the extent it has now. What's happening now is We're not talking about websites so much anymore. Social media is big, and there's so many different social media platforms that some businesses should take advantage of, others do not necessarily need. But the secret in managing all of these resources is to know how and to know what to do. For instance, an allergist. Do you think an allergist would need a Facebook page?
Depends on what he's going to be doing with it.
Well,
If he's trying to get business.
to make a quick answer, no. An allergist would not need a Facebook page. The reason being is because for a Facebook page, people come to engage, they come to interact. And if you're an allergist, an ophthalmologist, let's face it, how exciting, well, here's a day at the office. But with that being said, what would be a more effective way for these type of businesses to be effective on Facebook is through targeted Facebook ads.
Right.
These are the areas that they should be looking at. And this is the same with all of these social media platforms. You have to know, according to your business and your audience, how to leverage each one so that maybe Twitter works better in one case, maybe Pinterest works better for another business, and then Facebook, just Facebook itself, which would work better? A Facebook fan page or Facebook targeted ads or Facebook newsfeed ads?
Right.
So it varies.
I have a particular disdain for parts of Facebook. In saying that, though, as you know, I'm a huge Facebook person when it comes to my business. It has been phenomenal for business. Now, that doesn't say I like everything I see on here, but it has been great. And of course, then you built my website years ago, and I will say is the one thing good about you is, well, there's different kinds of websites that you can build. You can build them and maintain them, which you do for big businesses, but then you have websites such as mine where they're not so intricate, but where I can maintain it myself. And if I can maintain a website, anybody can maintain a website. But that's just because mine's fairly basic, correct?
Yeah, I mean, yours is fairly basic, but with that being said, it has the potential, and the platform that's built on is actually the same platform that's used for many very high-end commercial websites. So that's the beauty of it. It's easy to manage for a novice, yet somebody that really wants to put the time and energy into it can do some really fantastic things. And in your case, yeah, I would agree. You're probably the Facebook king of the Northeast Kingdom and most of Vermont. And that's great because you're leveraging it the correct way.
You get in my work with the Northland Journal, I create dialogue and get people, sometimes you really get people thinking about different things. And but there's other things, like I know our local hospital they've decided to put a lot of time into Facebook for the hospital. I don't see that. I don't see how the hospital or some social service organizations really benefit from Facebook. I don't quite see that myself, but I think a lot of businesses do.
Right, and you could very well be right. I mean, it all depends. Facebook, the primary intent is interaction with other people, having other people share what it is that you're posting there. And if what you're posting there is somewhat, I guess, plain vanilla, everyday sort of thing, well, today here's a picture of something that's up on the wall, or here's a procedure we did, or something like that, it's probably not going to be the most exciting things that people are excited to share. Again, maybe in their case, some promotions, maybe utilizing some polls, some visitor polls or something to get people to interact with what they're doing. That's what I mean. You don't do a Facebook page, a business page, and just throw up pictures of anything.
So in other words, if let's just say North Country Hospital, they wanted to get some traffic. If we announced maybe in the paper that Todd, our producer, was going to have a colonoscopy on the air, you know, that might attract them some attention too.
Yeah, definitely. Those are the kind of things that would.
Right.
It has to be something that stands out from the ordinary, and I think if you're going to do a procedure like that, you should go full tilt with YouTube videos, Twitter feed, and maybe put something on Pinterest for the ladies to check out.
Okay. So, yeah. So, but it's about trying to, like I put on these old photos, and you see what happens. It explodes with comments because people love to reminisce about the past.
Exactly.
And sometimes our memories are not quite as glorious or as bad as we put. But you know one thing I will say before we move off Facebook, my pet peeve is everybody is rich and beautiful, and everybody is madly in love. You ever seen anybody on here put how much they're just so in love with their spouse? Then you know them in real life,
Yeah.
And it's like a battleground. It's like people exaggerate everything.
Yeah. Well, you know, the Facebook thing, it's kind of a double-edged sword. It's like anything else. You're going to have the good, the bad, and the ugly, and
That's it.
yeah, it's all how you use it, and as long as you take care and use it the correct way, and you don't do like I saw in the news yesterday. You don't go in and steal a dress out of a store and then put pictures of yourself up on Facebook wearing the dress.
Yeah, you see people do some of the dumbest
Yeah.
things, or committing a crime. Yeah, well, that's committing a crime, and putting it on there, or filming yourself in a high-speed chase. People have done that too.
Or how to. There's recently some people that had a meth lab and they were showing how to create meth, and then they were using it.
Right.
And guess what? The police showed up and arrested them.
And you know, selfies, taking a photo of yourself and stick it on they call them selfies now. Well, you might be one of the pioneers of the internet, one of the early people here. Well, I was one of the pioneers of the selfie, because I used to always joke, because I'm the one with the camera. And so every once in a while, I'll humorously or sarcastically say to my wife, well, I have got to take a photo of myself at this event because I'm always the one taking the photo. So I have to take a photo of myself so I can actually have a little bit of history that, yes, I was there. So, yes, I'm the inventor of the selfie. If I had
Right.
known, I would have copyrighted that term.
Yeah. Well, so would you describe yourself also as being the Forrest Gump of Newport, Vermont?
Well,
Always kind of being in those famous scenes?
Oh, that could be true too, because I did used to run.
Right.
And Forrest Gump is one of my heroes.
All right.
So, and that was 20 years ago that movie was.
Yeah, and look how popular that still
Yeah.
is. So I think you've
Yeah.
stumbled onto a trend.
So tell me, I have no idea what Pinterest is. What is Pinterest?
Oh, that, I should probably keep that as a guarded secret for all my trusted clients.
Yeah. Well, I'm
it's
one.
It's a relatively new social media platform. Its demographic is primarily women. That means what appeals to women is probably what you want to put up on Pinterest. With that being said, again, if you have a certain type of business and you're selling a certain type of thing, then that's probably one of the very best resources to advertise, or not necessarily advertise, but to post things.
So I'm always trying to get our producer, Todd Pronto, a date.
Mm-hmm.
So is there any way I could actually pin him up on Pinterest as my producer? Is there any way we could get that in so I can finally accomplish that goal?
Oh boy, I don't know that. There's probably some sort of charity polls on all these social media platforms, and that's probably what you want to do. You're going to have to find something that, let's help this poor guy, and it's a charity cause, so we're not going to do any paid advertising. So
it's really too bad. Todd's such a nice guy, and he has to go through my crap. He's probably sitting back here trying to decide when he's going to shut off the cameras.
Yeah, I mean, he's back there right now, and I imagine Imagine you probably better already hit the pause button there.
Yeah, pause. Yeah, he and Toby Keith. But Pinterest works.
Pinterest works. And if anybody wants to know how it works, then they have to contact me, because I only reveal these great dark secrets to my loyal customers and clients.
Okay, I'm one of your clients. Just nobody will listen.
Okay.
No.
But with that being said, I provide a lot of free information on my website, and I actually put up some ebooks that people can download and learn.
What is your website?
It's alpinewebmedia.com.
Right.
And if you go to the blog section, there I actually try to post a lot of this stuff, because I want people to become educated in the new trends, what's available now, how to use it in their business. And if they take it and they can utilize that, then that's fantastic. If they call me up and need some assistance, well, that's great too. But it's kind of giving is receiving, so
Right.
that's kind of how I approach that.
What about Twitter? I've never Twittered either. And Senator Doyle, by the way, who's in his 80s, in the he was a Twitterer before most young people Twittered.
Yeah. Well, you know, for example, for a long time, I didn't get it either. I thought Twitter, tweets,
Yeah.
sounds like nonsense to me. Recently, though, I've been doing a lot of research into it. And the reason I started doing research into it is because I read an article about millennials. Millennials will not respond to long articles. They will not respond to anything more than 3 words in a photo. And this was in regards to Facebook. They're saying if you want to capture the attention of millennials, you need to throw up a picture in no more than 3 or 4 words, because otherwise you're going to lose them. Well, with that in mind, I started looking at Twitter, because what is Twitter? It's basically 3 or 4 words and a link to go find out more information. And so I'm beginning to think, I think there's more of a trend into Twitter now than ever before, because people are actually being conditioned to go more for the quick little jabs and hooks, and then click here to read more information, than they are to have maybe a paragraph of information displayed. In that regard, I think you're very fortunate with your Facebook page, because the content that you put on is a little bit more meatier. But then again, your audience, knowing your demographic, I can understand why you get the huge amount of attention you do. But for the younger crowd, the Twitter craze, the whole trend towards give me everything fast and quick, I see that as a continuing trend. And I'm starting to see even older people like us starting to kind of get down that road, because there's so much information, so many resources, and only so much time to take advantage of it.
Don't you love sending out an email, some profound email, say a paragraph long, and you get a 3-word response back, and it's like, wait, come on, a little more than 3 words.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's what's happening these days. There's so much information readily available to everybody, so many ways to access it, that people just don't have the time. And even myself, I used to read a lot of books. Now I read articles on the internet, but I skim through them, trying to glean the most information I can in a short amount of time. And you know, to be able to find time to sit down and read a book would be great. I mean, but it's just, our world's changing.
I think about how much work it was before the internet from my work at research. Now I can research without even leaving my chair. I can be over in a library over in Zurich or something. Mm-hmm. You know, you've got the, you know, there's so much, you know, a lot of people, and I joke about some of the funny, bad stuff out there, but the internet opens the world up for you. And people who don't do the internet, they only think about some of these things that we've joked about, like how, you know, people will, like there are people who every single meal they post a photo of what they're, you know, of what they're, and then there's people, I noticed, my wife, when she was having her babies, she was not thinking, because that was before the internet, well, before you and Al Gore invented the internet.
Right.
Um,
Well, Al
she-
invented it. I just used it.
Yeah, she she wasn't when she was delivering a kid, she was not thinking about, hey, let's tell the world here. She was too busy squeezing my hand. So, but people even do that as they're delivering. They're telling the world about it.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And now we have something called Skype, which can you imagine? Not that many years ago, it would have been like Star Trek.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you
now
think about it,
you can call anywhere in the world for free, and you're not only calling, you're getting video representation.
Well,
too.
yeah, if you think about like the Jetsons, the Jetsons now was futuristic. They had Skype on that. And when my daughter was over in Australia, we used Skype. Now, granted, her mouth movement didn't always line up with the words. Of course, you're married to a woman from Thailand. You must Skype then?
Well, we did when she was over there, and
No,
I
but
was
you
over
don't
here.
you don't Skype
And
a family.
we did when I had my business in Thailand. I Skyped a lot with my contacts over here.
Right.
But there's also other great tools like video conferencing. Google has some great tools for video conferencing around the world.
I mentioned how the Jetsons were able to look into the future, the future is today. Look at Maxwell Smart. He had his shoe phone.
Yeah.
And now we go around with cell phones all the time. I bet you were one of the first people.
Do you know where cell phones came from?
Where did they come from?
Star Trek.
Oh, really?
The first cell phone was invented by somebody who wanted to invent something like the communicator.
Yeah.
In Star Trek. And that's where the first cell phone came from. And if you remember, first cell phones that opened up, they had that little flip top, just like the communicator on Star Trek.
So
and that's where a lot of our technology has come from. Google recently rolled out some algorithms called Google Penguin and something called semantic searching, which means when you go to search Google now, Google wants the experience based on what have you been doing on the internet before, what have you been looking around for. So that, for instance, if you do a search on Picasso, if you've been looking around at artwork on social media and everything else, it's going to bring up results based on Picasso the painter. If you're looking at Picasso's pizza and wherever, and then you do another search on Google, it's going to bring up something else related to food and Picasso. And that all came from Star Trek because the guy at Google, the engineer that put this together, said, I want Google to intelligent search the way they asked the computer on Star Trek. And it just gives them the answers relative to what it's almost reading their mind as far as the kind of search that they want to do.
Well, I've noticed that and more lately. If I Google, and I'm not a techie, I use computers for what I need to use them for. But lately I've noticed if I Google search something like, like for example, I had to buy new dog collars for my underground fence. And how does this happen? I Google it, but then later on I'll get suggestions.
You miraculously see ads for dog collars.
Yeah, on Facebook though.
Right, exactly.
And like I understand on Google, I've seen that for a while, how all of a sudden I'll start seeing on Google ads coming up. But now when I'm Googling, I then start seeing ads over on Facebook.
That is all part of the semantic web searching. It's all the algorithms tying together based on what you've been looking at in the past. So now all these different ad networks through all the social media are directing these ads so that, it, like you said, if you happen to be looking at some dog collars or dog-related products on Amazon, all of a sudden, for the next few days, you're going to start seeing those dog collars on all the ads from Facebook to Google and everywhere in between, even on other websites, because a lot of these ads that appear on websites are affiliate ads that are tied in through different networks. It's kind of all tying together semantically.
Now, you as a techie person and a web designer, Nat, you must constantly have to update your knowledge, because if you just sat back, you'd be a dinosaur real quick.
Yeah, that's for sure. I mean, I started off building websites because that was the new technology, but to be honest now, the website business, people that advertise that they do websites is kind of an amateur thing to do, because we don't really do websites anymore. We do everything that supports websites. So the website it's like a mutual fund these days. A website might be the core component, but then you've got to filter in all of the search engine optimization, the social media, pay-per-click advertising, and web video. Anybody can build a website. Well, you know what? Anybody can become a master chef.
Right.
Anybody can become a plumber.
Right.
But if you don't sit down and actually learn the correct way to do it and the procedures, then you're going to fall on your face. It would be like for me to go take a cooking course. I have no interest in cooking whatsoever, but I don't want to hire somebody to cook for me. So you know what? Anybody can be a cook. I'm going to go and learn how to be a cook. Well, I start reading the books and I'm like, this is boring. I'd rather be doing my web stuff. So do you know what I'm going to do? The cooking course is going to go by the wayside. I'm going to go back to building my websites. And at night I'm going to be hungry because I don't have any food, because I don't know how to do it and I don't want to do it. And so a lot of people get to that point where they're like, you know what? You do it. So I get it back. Yet there are some people out there that really catch on, and for those kind of people, I like to give them the resources that they can go and learn to do it. And I tell them, you know, go and do what you can do and save the harder stuff for me. I mean, I would rather see people.
That's kind of like me.
Yeah, go in, put in your own pictures, do your own text, do all the easy stuff that you can handle. But if you get in over your head, that's why I'm here.
Yeah, I was even surprised. I even figured out how to put video on now because I have my YouTube of all these shows, so I can. I've got to admit, you don't need to worry yet though about me putting you out of business, because I know just enough to be dangerous.
Oh, put it this way: there is plenty more for me to do.
Right.
When we get into search engine optimization, social media, paid advertising, YouTube video, and all the other video platforms, there's just so much, and I am so grateful that you know how to do your own pictures and your own text.
Yeah.
And a lot of my customers, I'm so glad that they know the basics.
Right. You know, though, I often say this to my wife, though. The internet is wonderful. For me, it's a huge time and cost saver. But I watch people who I know are at work, because I know where they work, and you see they're posting Facebook posts. Wait a minute here. How much money are American businesses losing because people playing on the internet, shopping? I think it's unimaginable how much time is being wasted.
Yeah, I think it's a huge problem, and I think that if I were running a company, I would be like a sheriff in the Old West, where if somebody comes into town, I'd say, check your guns at the door. Yeah. I would be telling people, check your iPhones and your tablets and whatever else at the door, and then you pick it up during your break or whatever. But yeah, it's a huge problem, and you know, and you're looking at safety too. I mean, people driving down the road, texting and stuff. I mean, and even in a work environment, if you're sitting there texting and you're working in a manufacturing environment, you know, what if you get hurt, or the person next to you gets hurt because you're not paying attention to what you're doing?
But don't you know, to me, I find, like with the cell phone and driving and a lot of that, or people using it inappropriately, I still think in some ways, especially the inappropriate use of cell phones, I find that people are starting to get a little better at it, because now that the technology isn't so new. But maybe I'm wrong.
Well,
you now live in Chittenden County.
You're in Newport. In Chittenden County, I will tell you, it is 100 times worse. In 1997, I could get done work on Shelburne Road, and I could get up on the highway and be back home in Milton in less than 20 minutes. Now, almost every single night, there are traffic jams, like in the big cities, and you sit here in these traffic jams, and most of them are because somebody's had an accident, because they're texting, they're on their cell phones, and then while you're in the traffic jam, they're still sitting there texting, and so cars are pulling in and out in front of each other, running stop signs. It's
so in other words, the area you grew up in, Newport, is no longer the real world. We live in a kind of like a time warp.
In some ways, I think you're fortunate. I mean, Burlington Chittenden County used to be very nice too. It was easy to go to work in the morning, go back home at night. Now it's just becoming, it's very hard to get around in the mornings and at night down there. So, yeah, be thankful you don't have that up here.
My daughter now currently lives in South Burlington, and she lives in a beautiful section of town. And she lives in like a cul-de-sac area, and I think I could live here. But then I get out on the main road, and I said, no way, I'm not. I have no patience for traffic. But on the other hand, some of you guys come up here and you get so impatient for a cow crossing the road. It's like, come on.
Well, not me.
No,
Forget
no.
I'm from up here, so it doesn't bother me. But I know some of the transplants from maybe New York City and the more urban areas that come up to Vermont, and especially head up here. I can see where they'd get a little nervous, I guess.
So we're going to start wrapping up here, but have you been in contact with Al Gore? Because, oh, by the way, when I refer to Al Gore as the former vice president, he laid claim to inventing the internet. But have you been in contact with him to find out what the next big move is in technology?
Not so much Al Gore, but I have seen the ghost of Elvis.
Okay.
Yeah.
But what is the next trend?
The next trend, at this point, I would say it's probably Facebook tends to be winding down. And the reason Facebook is winding down is because they're doing more advertising, and people don't like that. If you remember MySpace, which was the Facebook of its day, that's exactly what happened to MySpace. Things like Pinterest are definitely on the upswing, and probably web video, because YouTube is owned by Google, and Google is oversaturated with people trying to come up in the search results. So now people are starting to leverage YouTube as a way to come up in the search results.
You know what my problem is, and I've always been like this, is I'm always behind times. It's like, for example, by the time that I actually like, say, a trend in clothing, it's already out of date. It's like I still, sometimes my clothes are so old, they come back into style. Then I'm on top of things.
We're still waiting for bell bottoms.
Right, yeah. And but I really am usually on the tail end of every trend. I believe I certainly was not one of the first people on Facebook. Actually, I thought it was utterly ridiculous at first until I was convinced otherwise, and it has been really good to expose exposure to the world. And you know, one thing in all seriousness about Facebook is we hear so much about young people, but there's so many truly old people out there. One guy who emails me and is on Facebook, I think he's 97, is with all that is bad, there's so much good. It opens the world up to some of these people who want to reconnect with people, these older people, and that's where a lot of them come to my site, especially if you're from this area. They get to see photos from homes, conversations, and I'm sure some of the people are like, wow, this is great, and other people are saying, wow, I'm glad I moved. But so there's good and bad.
Right. I mean, they're all tools. I mean, a shovel is a tool, a baseball bat's a tool, a knife is a tool, a gun is a tool. It all depends on how you use these tools, and Facebook is one of them, and just about anything you do.
Sometimes I think, though, I think about when I used to hike a lot when the kids were younger. Nobody had cell phones. They didn't carry cell phones, and although I don't feel I'm addicted to my cell phone. It seems weird when you don't have it, and you know, and it's like with I don't have a smartphone. I have a dummy phone, so I can't. I bet you can do everything probably from your.
Yeah.
And
I need to, because I'm on the move a lot. I need to.
But on the other hand, you probably don't need a GPS, because your phone is also probably a GPS.
Right. Yeah.
And so these smartphones can do so much that you're actually making some things obsolete. Like they say that basically wristwatches are
Yeah.
they're going the same way. Yeah,
Nothing.
because there's so many ways now to check the time. You know, your phone and just your computer. Hey, I do want to mention one thing in closing because I have no idea about it. What is Google Glass?
Google Glass is a set of glasses, an eyepiece that you wear, and you can control by clicking through it. It's almost like a web browser that's presented through a little window on these eyeglasses.
And why do I want to be why do I want to be walking around scanning the internet?
Well, that's what you've got to be a certain personality to want to engage in that. I don't think that even me as a technical person, there are times I leave my iPhone at home. I don't want to be bothered. I just want away from it. But these are the people on the other end of the spectrum that can't live without it.
Do you know who I could see doing this? Because every waking moment of his life is thinking, because he jam packs his life, as former Senator Vince Saluzzi. As I could see him having Google Glass and walking down the road, scanning the internet at the same time, because he emails me like at 2 o'clock in the morning if he has a question. But you know, he does so many things, and he's always on the go. He has to have Google Glass by now.
Yeah. Well, and speaking of that, the next level in that, the next trend in that, is not by clicking on it. It's your brain waves are actually going to control the navigation on these things. They've already made a breakthrough on that, and that's what's coming, and that's real science fiction stuff come true.
Well, do you know, there's some things I even used to joke about. When we used to travel a lot by car, I used to say, oh, I hope there gets to be a day where you can hop in your car, program your car, and it'll go. And that's moving forward now. Is that I do believe that in our lifetime, unless we walk out in front of a car when we leave here, I do believe that we will live to see a day where we'll be able to do that, at least to some level. To be able to hop in our car, program the car.
Well, maybe not you or me, but people at a certain income level, I'm sure.
Well,
they
that's
can.
true too.
Yeah, the Hollywood types and so forth, they'll have all those goodies.
Yeah, or
you know, you get to be buddies with Leonardo DiCaprio. He might help you out.
But then I do know the producer of this show, Todd Perano. I understand he's up to 6 digits now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Todd, can we be buddies on Facebook? Oh, he already is. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, okay.
All right. If somebody has a question about technology or just anything, how do they get a hold of you?
Okay. First, I would probably say if you want some free advice, some resources that aren't going to cost anything, check out alpinewebmedia.com. Look in the blog section. There's a wealth of information in there. If it's something beyond that, if you have any questions, you need some consultation services, you can contact me at 802-233-3261, and I'll do my best to help you out with whatever questions you have.
Okay, thanks for coming on, and how was it being on the Newhart Show?
Hi, I'm Larry. This is my brother Daryl. And this is my other brother Daryl.
Yeah, and my brother Daryl is back over there in the program in our show. So, all right.
No, always fun to come home. It's always great to be home. I love it.
Are you ever going to move back?
I don't know. I'll have to check with Al Gore.
Right. No, you check with Al and see what he says about the future.
Al Gore is the future of the internet.
Okay.
Master.
All right. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
And thank you for tuning in to another segment of the Northeast Kingdom Voice.